Rainier Maria Rilke. The Notebooks of Malte, Laurids, Briggs. Is a very interesting. It's by a poet, Rilke. Rainier Rilke was quite a famous poet of. He was a German. He was born in the 1870s, I think, and he tragically didn't live too long. I think he made it a little bit past middle age, maybe his 50s, I think, and that's almost like not so uncommon, thinking about like a lot of people born kind of on the cusp of the 19th century or the 20th century. Like you hear a lot of great young, even or especially writers and stuff. They have their poverty is a big thing here in this book. But yeah, it's an interesting look into it doesn't really have a plot and a steady plot. It's mostly, that's why it's called like existentialist in nature, because it's actually a diary. Hence, the notebooks, cataloging the day-to-day existence of our Danish protagonist. The interiority of what's going on in his life and his mind, especially, and that becomes kind of the crux of the book. Is his a lot of the tragedy, I guess, of he's like musing on his youth and like how he became to be the person he is, and he's 28. And one part of the book that I really identified with was him musing on how lacking and how ashamed he was of his not achieving anything of value, to him at least, because I guess he's probably your own worst critic, I guess, is especially probably experience of this, and this is very much a room to clef, because it's it's semi-autobiographical. It's not like fully drawing every single last bit. A little bit in the tradition of, say, Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar, although that was until the 50s or 60s until she wrote that, but something like that off the top of my head that draws a lot from, that has like a mixture between the fictional aspect. It's like a fictionalized version, but it's heavily probably draws in spades from Rilke's life, because his life, is quite interesting. I around the same time that I read this, I also read Letters to a Young Poet, which I really loved as well, and just like the amount of like taking on the responsibility, he felt like there was so much he wasn't like, when he was like telling the young poet, he was like make sure every single line counts, or that's not word for word, but he said like if you would one probably well-known line from that is like when he says something like if you can't, like if you would rather if you, without writing another line of poetry, if you'd rather not, I think it was like down to the like do or die type of thing, where it's like if you would rather not take on like another day of breathing or living, or like if you would give up all, if would you give that up if you knew you're never gonna write another line? So so the stakes are like really high for him. So that gives you kind of a picture. But yeah, it's Laurids Briggs. He's a Danish man who comes from wealth, but then he moves to Paris, and then in Paris he falls in hard times, and he becomes kind of impoverished, I think. And he's talking a lot about how dejected and how miserable he is in this poverty, and how he's like kind of one line. It starts off with a line where he's talking about when he moves to the city. It's like right off the bat with this, the first, probably one of my favorite first lines ever, when he says September 11th. By the way, he doesn't actually date this in any other time in the novel aside from this first part. He just says September 11th. But the rest of this he signifies no dates. But he says, "This then is where people come to live. I'd have thought it was more of a place to die. I have been out. I saw hospitals. I saw one man who tottered and collapsed. People gathered around him, which spared me the rest. I saw a pregnant woman. She was inching ponderously along a high, sun-warmed wall, occasionally touching it as if seeking assurance that it was still there. Yes, it was still there." So right off the bat, you're met with images of like death, like destruction, perdition. And he muses on this a lot throughout the novel. That kind of mixed with his home, like his like where he came from, and he's kind of reminds me a lot of Proust, like the way Proust memorized, his like time in Balbec and Search of Lost Time, especially Swann's Way, when he's talking about like how he had like the longest time having trouble sleeping, and then he's like thinking about his mother and how the famous Madeleine, he used to have that snack as a child. And there's something here when he talks about his Aunt Abeline, I think, and how much, because his mother died when they were young, and his family was very, he describes them as like almost like mystical, very like they had like seances, something similar to seances, to the point where they actually recorded seeing ghosts in their house. So that's one part that was very like, I had to like do a double take. I'm like, wait, what's going on here? I had to read that again. But yeah, it's he had a very good relationship with his Aunt Abeline. Like she was almost like a second mother to him. And they had a very deep, profound connection. But then, yeah, like I said, there's not like a plot. It's kind of like, a series of kind of instances in his life that stood out to him. I did write down a couple of quotes that I did enjoy, or well, not enjoy, but I found very insightful. I am learning to see. I don't know what it is, but everything enters me more deeply and doesn't stop where it once used to. I have an interior that I never knew of. What's the use of telling someone that I'm changing? If I'm changing, I am no longer who I was, and if I am something else, it's obvious that I have no acquaintances, and it can't possibly write to strangers. So another theme is change. Reminds me a lot of Heraclitus' famous quote of a man. It's like no man can step in the same river twice, because you're just constantly in a state. The universe is in a constant state of change as well. And that's probably why it's called existential a lot too, because his own life, these instances, like you're remembering you hold on to these like certain moments, like, and you could have a very impactful, definitive series of just like literally a few hours with somebody that you relate to immensely, but then you can also be surrounded by kind of a dull nullity of where there's like a total dearth of a connection or anything meaningful. So like, and you could spend hundreds of hours, maybe even days at a time, with just like people that you don't that don't really compel you, and like those drastically differ. So I'm gonna end on one more quote, because I just love like his voice throughout this. Like the tone is just like so. It's a little bit Kafka, but kind of less on the surrealism. I'd say there's like more of a stark surreal. It's a bit of like that meets Sadegh Hedayat, I think. And isn't the whole world yours? For how often you set it on fire with your love and saw it blaze and burn up, secretly replaced it with another world while everyone slept. You felt in such a complete harmony with God, when every morning you asked him for a new earth, so that all the ones you had made could have their turn. You thought it would be shabby to save them and repair them. You used them up and held them out with your hands again and again, and for the world is equal to everything. Sorry, I'm not used to reading in that kind of text. I think when I copied it into the Word document, I forgot to put it on the text, which I'm really more accustomed to reading. But yeah, I love that voice. I love that like this idea, like he's going back to God a lot too. Like he's thinking about thinking of God in a new light, maybe, I think, but yeah, I really like this. I looking for more of Rilke's stuff. I think those are the only two things I read in that, and I think like one of his like kind of a short collection of poetry, but I'm definitely gonna have to look more into him. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments, or if you feel compelled, let me know what you think. And yeah, the Notebooks of Malte, Laurids, Brigge, sorry, by Rilke. Check it out.